President Donald Trump has reclassified medical marijuana. He signed it on Thursday. I guess they rescheduled it. Processing marijuana is federal crime punishable, blah, 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 blah. It shifts medical marijuana from essential 1 controlled substance down to, I guess, a Schedule 3. There you go. Yeah. Happy, is it not 420? 3 days fucking late.
They just
3 days late.
This is the Tapped In Podcast, the podcast for beverage distributors that want to empower their sales team to drive business results.
So yeah, we can talk about it. Why don't we talk about it? We should talk about it. I mean, it's topical news, isn't it?
If I could do a Trump impersonation, I would.
Yeah.
You know.
How are you guys doing? What's going on?
That's the cold lead in right there.
Yeah. Did anything come out of, I mean, I meant to ask you about, I mean, and Lester, you assume you were there in DC too, right?
We both were,
yeah,
yes.
we were both there.
Did anything come out of it on the marijuana, the beverage front? I mean, well, where's all that at?
The irony is too much for me to contain.
It is.
I mean, we just had, how many 600-700 beer distributors storming the Hill with different messages about what to do about hemp, and the next day they rescheduled marijuana. So I mean, were we the straw that broke the camel's back? Did we walk out of these offices and everyone, you just wouldn't believe what happened? I had 2 different distributors come to my office, one tell me to do it, one tell me to do it. I don't think we've ever had that scenario in our advocacy history. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't around here, 80 years ago when we started the MBWA, but I imagine, our messages for all the years we've been advocating have been consistent. To see us this year with an inconsistent measure, maybe we were the straw that broke the camel's back.
Maybe. What you guys putting those cupcakes at that party at the Smithsonian?
All right.
I love it.
But yeah, you want to talk about hemp? We talk about hemp, and
So does that mean it's we're good to go? I mean, the reclassification. I mean, what is it?
Literally, the news literally just broke.
Well, they just reclassified medical. So my early read, without any real attorneys to think about this or apply this, is that if they're just specifically picking on medical, this is about research. And because being a Schedule 3, they can get more access to research dollars, right, Lester? They can do more stuff with it, and they can get more involved on that front, but not changing in recreational.
Well, I mean, California's been medical, dude. I don't care. I mean, 10 years, 15. I mean, it's probably 15. How long do we know when California came out with medical use marijuana? There was a doctor in every street corner.
I'm just intrigued by when
slippery slope with the medical.
I'm just intrigued by when the cocaine dealers are going to ask him to reschedule medical cocaine.
Yeah. You need to get that Cocaine Blues by Johnny Cash rolling.
If there's that much difference.
Yeah, we need Johnny Cash, Cocaine Blues playing in the background.
Oh, I love it.
If you guys get a tip on that, I'll make sure I get some options trading on the Coke stock.
Exactly. The difference between like the recreational game and the medical game is really like in Michigan, it's a whole different regime as well, and it's got different processes and like. Yeah. If you're a grower and you're a caretaker, you guys can anoint me your plants. I can caretake them and triple or quadruple my, inventory. And then if you don't buy all your inventory, I can just sell it to somebody else who needs it. And it's like this weirdest thing, right, Mike? Yeah. And how you can kind of manage this. It makes no sense. It's like, this is straight legalized drug dealing. Yeah. Like, there's no organization by this at all.
You watched all the property in Michigan. Not only go up in value, but just completely vacant land just completely disappear once all that went into place. I mean, you travel up north now and areas that were just vacant fields or vacant land, it's just all big, giant, either brick walls, barbed wire fences, or, some sort of barrier. And it's just a big, giant grow operation.
And what is absolutely astounding, if you go to the Customs and Border Patrol website, you go down to illegal seizures, you click on marijuana, we continue to seize copious amounts of weed at our southern border. Despite all the grow houses in California, in Colorado, in Michigan, in Oregon, in Humboldt County, in Nevada, and we still bring in mass amounts because they're only catching a fraction of what's rolling through. So this idea of I've always just laughed at this idea that this is a substitute for alcohol. I'm like, no, we've been self-medicating with tremendous amounts of cannabis for decades. Uh, and now that it's out front is what's got everyone's panties in a twist. And there really is, it's just up front instead of, behind the curtain.
Yeah. The thing in like Michigan, because I only know this specific example more recently too, Lester, is that Michigan just amplified their taxes in a considerable way and has pushed that tax up a lot for the recreational marijuana.
Yeah.
That has then driven, it was like 3 out of every 5 sales are connected to the legal market versus the black market. And now you can see that pendulum swinging back little by little. I have no data right now or on the top of my head, but that pendulum will swing back little by little because that black market that they're still seizing is cheaper. It's more efficient. It's more effective.
It goes back to the old Laffer curve, right? The more you tax it, you're going to push it out of the market.
Yep.
The more you tax it, the less you make. Ironically, there's a curve, and a lot of the states are pushing it too far.
Yeah. Before the tax increase, I could walk into a dispensary and you could get a bag of gummies, 200 milligrams worth of gummies for like $6.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we do drug tests around here at VXP. Maybe we don't tell people publicly about that.
Oh, they were.
Yes, we just jumped into a conversation. This entire podcast, we just jumped into a conversation as if we just ran into each other in the hallways. And,
I'm not even going to do
should we say that Lester's on? Should we say who Lester is?
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Lester Jones, Chief Economist, Chief Economist and Vice President of Data Analytics for MBWA. Is that the right title now, Lester?
Yep.
I love it. Well, welcome back to the podcast. We were able to sucker you back on. You came in with your Live Oak shirt on. How's my boy Chuck doing?
Chip's doing well.
Chip's doing well.
Live Oak, they're cranking along. They were, when you met them, they were a self-distributing brewer. They have since abandoned the self-distribution model because, as we know, distribution
is hard.
And now he is with Capital Reyes in Austin. And he's actually broken out into some other markets in Texas,
nice.
Houston, Dallas, above us, north, and out into San Antonio. So he is doing, I think he's chugging along,
I love it.
It doesn't help.
I love Chip.
Yeah, it doesn't help that, it's the brewery is a very good technical brewer, right? I mean, it's not about the marketing. It's not about the merch. It's just about really good beer. And, one day, hopefully someday soon, we will only really care about really good beer. Put the beer back in beer and put the flavor back in beer. And, I think that time will come when we actually are, much more rational about how and what we do with the beverage of beer.
What I love about Chip, boys, is you guys haven't been there yet. It's either the first stop out of the airport or the last stop back to the airport. You can swing by and see his tap room. And he makes smoked beers. And as I'm chewing the beer that I'm drinking, he's like, how do you like that? I'm like, I'm not a big smoked beer guy. He's like, well, you know what? I'm going to keep brewing it until people like you like it.
There's persistence. There's a lot of persistence and commitment to that.
Where is this?
Everybody I've ever met that is super into smoked beers believes they have to evangelize it to everybody.
Yeah,
that it is the only way to drink beer. Now, I've never met somebody that's like, oh yeah, I like smoked beers. It's either you're passionate and you're evangelizing it, or it's nothing.
Well, it's an acquired taste. I mean, it's absolutely an acquired taste. The same way when you got your first taste of foam from your old man when you were 12, 13, you made the bitter face, But eventually one day you're like, oh, actually, this is really good. And smoked beers, serve that, you acquire the taste for it. And the good thing about Live Oak and their smoked beer lineup is that they have some very light, easy drinking smoked beers. And they have some very, smoke forward beers. And they have Rauchfest, which is a heavy metal smoked beer festival over the winter, which is black shirts and chains and heavy metal and smoke beer, you're a metalhead, you got to go.
Love it. That's awesome. We'll give our best to Chip. We look forward to seeing him next time we're in Austin again, too. One of the first things we want to talk about today with Lester after the news of the day in the marijuana and the descheduling of marijuana, which we got into first, is, Lester, what's the state of the economy and the consumer, my man? You got some interesting data, some things you think about. I've got your slide deck open. If you want to drive me to share any slides, I'm happy to do that as well, too. But like you've been preaching for a while, consumers want to spend money. They're interested in spending money. It's not a doom and gloom as what everybody thinks it is when you look at the data. Is that still holding up? You still feel the same way?
Absolutely. I still feel that way. And we had a great conversation with an individual during Ledge Conference. And I was trying to explain to him, how consumer sentiment kind of works is that, you can see your buddy out on the street and you say, hey, Bob, how you doing? He's like, shitty. And you're like, well, why? You lose your job. Well, I didn't lose my job. Did you get a raise last year? I got a raise. Your wife leave you? No, she's still at home. Your kids in jail? No, they're all good. Your truck working? Your dog gone? No. All the components of his sentiment
of a great country song
are doing well. Yeah, but you ask him how he's doing. He's like, no, it sucks. And that's pretty much, and believe me, guys, don't tell anyone. But when I do the Beer Purchasers Index, I see the exact same thing. When our members are optimistic, they're overly optimistic. And by that, I mean, I say, how are beer sales? And they tell me, I get a 70. And then I sum up the individual components of that, and I get a 60. And I'm like, ooh, these guys are ahead of themselves because the components don't match the overall sentiment. And the same way, when I get like a 30 and I sum up the components and I get a 40, I'm like, oh, these guys are feeling extra down, even though the sum of their portfolios indicates that they're doing better. So even our beer distributor membership, from a consumer sentiment of how are you feeling, gets disconnected very quickly between the components of our lives and our overall feeling about our lives. And I just think it's wonderful because right now, we were in a very negative sentiment area where I get a lot of negativity, but I get the sum was relatively positive. And in the last 2 months, I've gotten a strong positive, but the sum of the totals don't work. But that's what happens when we have that early Easter, we have a dry March, it's warm, it's hot, everyone's out, sundresses, cowboy boots, flip-flops, whatever, everyone's happy. And then you get that extra momentum, but it's actually above the sum of the totals. It's just a fascinating look. And that's the same thing with our economy. We spent a lot of time obsessing over the negative components while real wages were going up above inflation. We still had job gains. That's over now. We still had job gains, and we could see kind of the away from home expenditures were really doing well. People were going out, that discretionary income spending, and which you see in that one chart where I deflated it and divided it by the per capita number. For the first time in 2024 and 2025, the American consumer spent more on food and beverage away from home than they spent at home. And that was the first time in the history of the series that happened. That's profound because people, if you're and I said this on LinkedIn, if you're a beer distributor and you're going to the grocery store and your velocity's down and you're like, well, people don't drink beer anymore. I'm like, the money's just not in that grocery store. The consumer woke up that morning and he was just as likely to go feed and quench his thirst away from home as he was to go and use that money to go get, go down one more.
One more?
Yeah, nope, keep going. So that's the nominal. That was the nominal term, right? Go back up. So that's the nominal expenditures. That's the nominal expenditures that are unadjusted. But inflation, the next slide is inflation, and inflation away from home has been greater than inflation at home for pretty much everything. You go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. There we go. When you do the math, when you deflate the nominal series into a real-time series, you divide by the population, suddenly you see in 2024 and 2025, the American consumer was pretty much just as likely to spend their dollars in an off-premise establishment as they are in an on-premise establishment. And as you can clearly see, going all the way back to what year is that, 1992, that data was a huge gap, but it's slowly been narrowing as we've gotten wealthier, we've gotten more, we've gotten older, we've doing more away from home. COVID was the big anomaly, and we came back from COVID. We just came back with a vengeance. We were on this path already, right? That's the beautiful thing. Well, let me take that back. That's the crazy thing about COVID, is that it screwed up so many trends, but after 3 or 4 years, we're kind of back on that long run trend where we were as a group of consumers and as economy in the post-COVID world. That's just, it's super fun. But if you're looking,
do you have any feeling around, we've talked about this podcast a couple of times, the K-shaped economy, that, there's a segment of the population that's doing quite well and a segment that's not doing well. Is there any correlation between what you're seeing in the on-premise trend and maybe the wealthier getting wealthier and spending more and more on-premise?
Maybe, but let's go watch Mel Brooks and watch The History of the World Part 1, and it's good to be king. I mean, we've always had a K-shaped economy. The French Revolution, going back through time, back to the Mesopotamians and the Phoenicians and all those crazy, civilizations. There was always a K-shaped economy. Yeah, we'll always have that. We'll always have this wealth disparity and this wealth inequity that we're always trying to fix. That's inherent in our human nature, is that as civilization, we're always trying to fix that. But the reality is I don't necessarily buy it that much. It's, right now it's more the old people who have all the wealth, right? And the young people who don't have it, but at least the young people are somehow related to the old people. So when the old people die, at least the young people get some of that wealth.
The greatest wealth transfer ever of all time will be the boomers to the.
That's what they're saying. I mean, we'll have to see if it plays out and if it's true. But I'm not.
Buy avocado stock now.
Yeah.
Mother's Day is coming up. Notification for everybody on the pod. Make sure you're taking care of your mom so you can get cut out of that will.
Exactly.
Good call out, bud.
Don't get yourself cut out.
My mom did text me and she said, "Hey, Mother's Day is coming up. Can we go to brunch?" And my response was, "When is it?"
Already made the reservation, John. It's already made the reservation. Going to your favorite place. And then we'll watch Throw Mama from the Train. Who was Throw Mama from the Train? That was Danny DeVito. It's a good movie.
You gotta love it. Love it. So consumers, I love, this is bias, right?
Yeah.
Lester and Ross, at the end of the day, it's bias. We're all rooted in how we feel versus what we actually do. Yep. And why we do these things, the way we do these things. It's just a lot of rooted in bias. And it's very interesting and very fun to kind of watch. On the BPI front, you're doing that on a monthly basis. Just give a quick pitch to anybody listening out there what the BPI is. Make sure we can get listeners who are maybe purchasers to participate in this more, because this is a fun project and it's cool for you to have. And we want to, the more people participate, the more accurate the data is as well.
Yeah. So I do the Beer Purchasers Index, and it's very simple. It's a sentiment index. It is unscientific. It is purely gut check. I send you an email. About the May of the month, I say, do you order more, about the same, or less? 3 possible states you can be in. And, it's a quick turnaround, 5 or 6 days. I collect the data and turn it around. And it gives me both a beer purchaser's perspective of what I am ordering. What's my order to my suppliers? Calling up AB, I'm calling Constellation, I'm calling New Belgium, I'm calling, whomever, calling Tilray. I make myself laugh sometimes. You're calling up Tilray and you're saying, I'm ordering, and your orders, are they more or less? And I break it down by segments, and that's pretty much it. And it's just a gut check of how things have, and because you can't sell what you don't have. So it kind of gives me an idea that, maybe our guys, our distributors are a little depleted on this. They're getting some more interest from their retailers. So I look at it as a forward-looking index. What's to come based on what our beer distributor members are asking of their suppliers to send them. And as we all know, you don't always get what you ask for. Sometimes you get more. Sometimes you get less. Sometimes you get completely random shit that you don't even know what to do with, but that's just the nature of the relationship. But for the most part, I ask people to give me a gut check of what they really need, not what they expect to get on allocation or what's out of stock or whether it's just it's a sentiment index. I make fun of sentiment indexes. Here I am doing one myself, but I like to use it just to test the waters and see how the overall mood of the membership is. And it's great. And I do the beer purchasers index, but I also do the at-risk index. The at-risk index is the same theory. Are you seeing more inventory at risk of going out of code in the next 30 days or less or about the same? And when the numbers are low, hallelujah, we've got some velocity. We don't have a lot of out of codes going on, and what we saw across the board here was all the orange lines were below the yellow lines. That's good. Craft is still relatively high. Craft doesn't have the velocity it used to have. It's slowing down. We need to make less, order less. That's what we're seeing. But, the imports being down where they are, the premium lights being low, all those guys being below just gives me a sense that, people are looking around. They're like, things are looking better. That's why I like this. That's why I like these two measures of beer purchasers' sentiment on what they think is coming. Because that's what's going to happen in a couple months. Because if you don't have it, you ain't selling it. And that's the purpose of us doing the BPI every month.
So how do you think the industry is seeking its equilibrium right now with inventories needing to normalize and everything else that's going on? Like, are you seeing the industry seek its equilibrium? What does that mean? Yeah. All the other challenges with the consumer, like, are you finding that people are behind the eight ball on inventory? Are they ahead of the curve or whatnot?
It seems at this point, at least the membership of MBWA, the core beer guys, are okay. I know there's some forced shipping going on. I know there's some certain things are going up, but for the generalization, I think things are okay. And that's a good sign. If you have that, I do follow the census of wholesale trade, that total alcohol beverage inventory, that inventory to sales index that's been relatively high, up in the 160s and 170s. It's been up there for, since we kind of came out of COVID, because once again, if you're spending your money away from home, you're not spending it for at home. And the volumetric differences between having a beer when you go out versus buying a 6-pack or a 12-pack when you go home is tremendous. And not only did the beer industry get stuck in that with that shift to away from home consumption, the liquor industry got even more screwed by that shift, because you remember, you go have one cocktail, you get you get 1.5 servings. If you buy a 750 milliliter or a big ass handle, you're getting 17 plus servings. So if you're not buying for at home consumption in 24 and 25 and you're a beer industry, you're a little hurt. If you're the liquor industry, you're getting your ass kicked. That's why we have barrels and barrels in a sea of bourbon and other hard liquor that just doesn't move. And everyone's saying, oh, it's the consumer. We told you it was the kind of bullshit. It's the fundamental nature of what happens when the population decides to drink away from home versus drinking at home. And that's why I call it the Occam's razor. It's the simplest explanation. We have growing wages. We have, growing economic activity. We have all these things going on, and everyone's like, it's the economy. I'm like, well, no, it's not the economy. You've been to an airport recently? You've been to a restaurant or bar recently? They're packed. They're full. Look at the data. Look at the spending numbers. They're huge. It was, it's $1 trillion in 2025, guys. $1 trillion were spent on food and beverages away from home.
It's a ton of money. We've got a client, and because you've got the World Cup coming up, right? So we've got a client who is, the GM of an operator in one of these markets. His son signed up. You got to get into the lotto to get these tickets, right? He signed up for 4 tickets for every single game in this major metro that they're in. Is a $35,000 outlay of cash that he had to contribute to and like pre-approve on a credit card. He didn't get a single ticket. That's how many people want those tickets and how many people are going to come over here or fly in or go to those games. There are that many people that want to spend money on something like that right now.
Yep. True that.
Now they might not have jet fuel in Europe by the time they need to get here, but that's a new problem.
Yeah.
but that's a new problem. But there is a huge demand for those tickets out there for sure, or just to do stuff out of home.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot
Mikey,
there is a lot of discretionary spending in the US economy, even with gas prices where they are. And even now, I mean, the gas prices aren't what they were, they haven't really peaked to where they were in prior economically stressful periods. And on an inflation adjusted basis, they're actually, don't drag me out and tar and feather me, but inflation adjusted, they're actually kind of reasonable.
$4 a gallon ain't what $4 a gallon used to be.
Exactly.
Is, basically what you're saying, Lester, which is a fair point. How do you think that the gas does have an effect on the consumer? It's less of a percentage of total spend. I know that. We all know that for a fact, that we're just consuming less gas as a percentage of our budget. Is that more a relationship of that wages have gone up, or that we are genuinely consuming less gas on a regular basis as an American consumer?
I haven't really dove into those numbers yet for the first quarter and this recent, we're 6 weeks in, to really see how people are responding and how they're working things out. But I did say this during the FinTech webinar, and I pulled it from Bank of America Credit Card Services, Sarah at Bank of Credit Card. She's like, the channel shift is real. If I can't, and gas, the price of gas is much more inelastic than the price of beer. We don't have on and off premise gas stations. You might have, I mean, maybe we do. You can go to Costco, right? You can make the time and the trip to go save the quarter on the Costco gas versus a convenience trip. So there is some channel shift in the gas world, but it is nowhere near as strong and as significant as channel shifting is for the beer industry. And so as people reconcile their gas purchases with their going out and dining out, I think what you'll see is a lot fewer people going out, a lot of people staying in. We'll see that return to the off-premise, which volumetrically for the beer industry is probably going to turn out to be a positive, because instead of having one beer, you're buying to start with at least 6. Maybe 4-pack if you're one of those fancy craft beer drinkers and you can afford that super high end. But if you can afford a 4-pack of electric jellyfish for $20, I don't think you're worried about paying $5 for a gallon of gas. I'm just saying. I mean, some of those 4-packs of super high end craft, I can't imagine there's any interrelationship between gas prices and a 4-pack of just super ultra premium, delicious, yummy craft beer.
We've been kind of on that same wavelength with you, Lester. Gas prices go up if it gets real tough, or even though $4.50, $5 a gallon. That's probably a net positive for beer long run, with people not traveling as much, maybe staying at home more often, and just trying to be smart with their dollars. Beer is still a cheap luxury, as we've said before on the pod. You would agree with that as well.
Absolutely.
And that if I'm going to sit at home, or if I'm going to be in my backyard with my kids, I might be more apt to grab a 6-pack of my best or favorite beer than it is to spend $200 on tequila. Or
I think Lester alluded to that consumption is actually higher potentially if you stay at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
and as you saw with that,
you're not getting a DUI on the riding lawnmower.
Well, that's not true, technically.
Yeah, technically, that happens quite often.
I've seen that YouTube video before. So
can you get a DUI on your own property riding a lawnmower?
Not on your own property, but some of these guys drive the lawnmower because they've lost their license and don't have their car to the C-store. Some of these true believers, Ross. Actually, I have a sales rep told me about his father-in-law who got pulled over on a lawnmower because his wife took his keys and his driver's license because he was drinking and driving too much. So he drove his lawnmower to the C-store and got in trouble. The things you learn in rural Georgia, Ross. So, other thing, Lester, consumption. Where are we at with consumption? Are the headlines true that people are done drinking beer? We see this shift happening in real time. Like, I think done drinking beer is a thing of the past. You've got Dr. Oz out there talking about social lubricant. We've got the new health and what do we call them? Dietary standards. There it is. Dietary standards out. Yes, dietary guidelines. Tell us about, like, what is the sentiment around that, and that I've got the slide up and we can pull it up whenever you want me to. There are more beer drinkers today in 2025 than there were in 2025 to 2015, or 2015. Like there are just net more people.
Yeah. No, absolutely more people, right? There's no doubt. Maybe 2025 may be the first year that the population doesn't grow. The population doesn't grow. We have negative net migration, which we haven't had in a very long time. So we actually have people leaving the country. So our population could actually, shrink in 2025 and 2026. We don't really know that until they kind of get done doing all the work. But how many beer drinkers are there? I mean, per capita consumption is down. But what you also saw when I showed you that channel mix of expenditures at home versus away from home, I personally am not surprised by it because you're away from home. And if you're drinking away from home, you absolutely drink less than you're at home. So we have more drinkers. We have more people. They're drinking differently. And that's what really drives I think drives our narrative that we have to use with retailers and we have to use with, policymakers and anyone else. Is like, just because we're drinking differently doesn't necessarily abandon a category. It just means we're trying to enjoy these beverages in different places at different times and different circumstances. I think that's a great story, and I think we should all be telling that story. But, and like I said, the consumer's here, he's willing, and just winning those occasions is what our priority should be.
So the chart we're looking at for anybody who's not watching on YouTube and listening, you got 2015 to 2025, 230 million people to 254 million people, 41 and change percent drink in the past 30 days, which means your net drinkers 96 million versus 106 million for a 10 million net delta, right? Yeah. There's 10 million more. And I've always said this is the beer or beverage alcohol is a per capita consumption game. And if you have more capita, that's good for you too, as well. And you can see this in the chart next to it is that LDA, which is legal drinking age per capita beer consumption. So that's how much gallons. Is this gallons, Lester?
Yeah, it's gallons per person, yes.
Gallons per person, roughly 27 down to 23. And that's a delta of 5, right? Mm-hmm. So not that big a difference in slight trend, but it's only been more recent where the trend has been down, that's unique that you draw that correlation back to that our off-premise or on-premise spending is up, more dollars per drink means we're consuming less total consumption as well. That's an interesting tie-in I had not had on my own at all.
Yeah. You have to tie the who, the what, the where, the when back to the channels, back to the consumption numbers, and actually do a little bit of thinking about how is this working out. And I did the math again for the most recent TD Links data. 80% of the new accounts in the United States are on premise in the last year. 80% of the beer accounts that have been added to our economy in the last 12 months are on premise. Well, I tell you what, you put a case of beer, maybe 2 cases and a keg into a small little on-premise account. You don't drop off 4 pallets like you do at the Walmart. And that is
that this chart?
Yeah, it's kind of this chart. Yeah.
Talk people through this because this is an interesting understanding for our listeners out there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a 10-year change. I was just talking about a 1-year change, right? Looking at this chart, I have a 10-year change, and it's the change in the number of accounts as reported by Nielsen TD Links. And the waterfall chart, there's the gain is 14, let's call it 15,000 new accounts in the past 10 years. But the blue chart is the additions to that 14,000. That includes Dollar General's, dining, lodging, and recreation as the biggest contributors. And as you know, Dollar General isn't known for its broad assortment of fine craft beers. They're pretty brand centric and SKU centric to a very narrow, high velocity products. So, they're not going to add a whole bunch to the total. And all those other ones just are small accounts. And then meanwhile, you've seen the orange accounts are the shrinking ones. And those are the convenience, the liquor, the grocery. Those are ones that have actually collapsed through consolidation over the last 10 years. So where a beer distributor has opportunity to place a pallet of beer or a case of beer has shifted dramatically towards the case and away from the pallet. Is ergo still a word? Ergo, we're drinking less beer because it's just not all out there the way it used to be. And
You
I think,
not to cut you off, but the growth in dining and on premise, do you think that a lot of that it has to do with the rebound effect from COVID, that we're just kind of getting back over the hump? And I can't
absolutely.
speak globally, but I know locally, after COVID and the great pinch, and we've watched on premise do nothing but close for a long time. At least around here, we had a really strong on premise college market, and a lot of places just closing up left and right. And the ones that didn't close, you saw really just a squeeze, right? A squeeze in
Uh-huh.
operations. The food wasn't as great as it ever was. I mean, it just was. You go out for dinner and you're like, why did we spend that kind of money on mediocre food? And over the past 6, 8, 12 months, we have seen that kind of change now to where people are actually investing in a nicer restaurants. They're investing in a nicer on-premise
Yeah,
establishments. The food quality is back, right? We're watching them open now. So you think a lot of that is just people kind of got over that fear and now the on-premise market is stabilized and they're
yeah,
reinvesting?
it
Or
would
is
make
there
sense.
something else that's really going into that?
Well, no, I mean the ability for the American consumer to surf channels like that, surf channels with their money, has a very strong impact on our total volumes. And I think what you're seeing in your market, it might be happening in other markets as well. Uh, and and we do get caught up in the closures and not so much as in the openings. I mean, even I think the BA had their craft brewers conference, this week, and they were talking about, there's still openings this year. There's still guys that opened. It's just the closings were stronger than the openings, so you had a net decrease. But there's still people opening breweries, which I think is crazy because the numbers are down, but people still see opportunity. So I think the same thing is happening, and what you're seeing in the on premises, people are moving around. What was old, they're kind of done with what would have been their old establishments, and now they're looking for new establishments, and that's okay. Our market is incredibly dynamic. It has tons of opportunity in it. And, instead of, thinking, dwelling on a lot of the negative aspects of it, I think our job needs to be to focus on where the opportunities are.
And opportunities to bring more drinkers into the category too. Because the last time
Yeah.
we met and you were on, you said we don't need less people drinking more. We need more people drinking less.
Yeah,
And from what you've
that's a
told us
classic
today,
old.
it
Yeah.
looks like that's happening, right? I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
what we're seeing in the numbers.
Yeah, and that's
Well,
great. I mean,
I think
I think that's an old Harry King thing from the USBA from the 50s or 60s. That's an old kind of government advocacy thing. We're not here to make few people drink more. We're here to make more people drink less. Yeah, 'cause
Right.
we want moderation. We want people to be responsible. We want people to do the right thing, and having one or two and doing the right thing is what we advocate for. And that's it's a good little tagline. I like it. It's test
this runs
time.
Yeah.
this runs kind of counter to the way our industry's been moving from a distributor perspective. I think I want to tie this together because what's clicking in my brain is over the last 5 to 10 years, we've been shoving more and more accounts into pro-sell, tell-sell that are on the on-premise side. We've been taking non-buy accounts and kind of shoving them under the rug and pretend they don't exist. What if we'd be better off mailing them a check for $20 than them stopping by that place? Would you advise distributors to think about this differently as the industry shifts?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm old school. I'm like, if you want to build a brand, you start in your on premise in your local accounts. You figure out what matters to people, and then you take the success of those brands and those products and those innovations to your larger off premise, and you show them that there's a connection. And that's and I haven't been doing, and that's why I do the fintech. So do you have the fintech slides there done?
Yeah, I
I
do.
mean, just open up the top 10 brands. Let's if you can fire those top 10 brands up. That's the one thing that we don't do in our industry publicly because we never had the data. We've always had the Nielsen data, the Circana data. We've had the Nielsen, the on-premise CGA data, or we've always had various data sources that direct our attention to one channel or another.
Yeah.
The best thing about the fintech data is that it is on and off-premise single sample. So I have single sample Yeah, go down. Just
So drive me a little bit,
oh,
Lester.
that was the old one. But just go down to down to the top 10 brands. There'll be a top 10 brand slide in there somewhere.
There it is.
There you go. So yeah, that's the brewers. Yeah. So for me, recognizing the connection between the on premise and the off premise is what's so important here. We see Mick Ultra growing share in the on premise and the off premise. Well, that's a good story to tell, that I'm introducing people that might not be willing to buy a whole carton of this, introducing them to one, and we have that connection. Modelo Especial did well in that narrative. Busch Light doing well with that narrative. This is the 2025 data. I guess you don't have the Q1. If you want me to, can I share with you?
Yeah, you can. If you hit there's a little share button, Lester, on the bottom that just says
See it.
Share screen. Yep.
Yeah. Let me show you. Let me show you what I'm talking about with the current data, because you, my good friend, have the old data. All right, so there you go. So as you can see, so Mick Ultra, for example, has, it grew 1.2 share on premise. That's great, but it also grew almost a share off premise, and that gives us this idea of the interconnections between an on and off premise. Miller Lite, for example, down in both sides of it. We need some work, guys. Coors Light, a little bit of on-premise love, but kind of flattish. But then you see Modelo Especial right there. These are kind of like power brands, right? They perform in both the on and the off-premise. You get down there, you see Guinness, and we've heard plenty of news about Guinness and how they're doing well. And there they are, showing us that both the on-premise and the off-premise can work together to grow a brand. And the next slide here, I'll flip it over. Same problem. Ignore the title, guys. Sorry, my apologies. But the small headings work. But Busch Light, as a number 11 brand, having strength in both the on and off premise. It's a power brand, right? I'm doing well in both. Pacifico, boom. Coors Banquet, doing well in both. So the example here is that we need to start thinking that these channels are connected and they feed off of each other. FinTech is that one data source that gives us this ability to say, how are retailers behaving? And look, these guys are working in tandem. This is a good thing, people should be thinking about getting these channels in line with each other and getting back to the idea that I have guys out there, ladies, guys and gals out there working these markets, and they need to be working them in tandem to move the total category forward.
There's a world in which like AI continues to take over the relationship that businesses have with customers and everything else, and we can lean into that blessed nature in which we have still chosen to be market people, relationship driven, and I don't know how you three feel, but it's starting to annoy me more and more with like the AI bots that I talk to. Like I'd like to talk to a human and all that good stuff. And we could lean into that in our market in a really interesting way and actually leverage that in really interesting ways in our industry as well. Now, should we do it differently than we did 25 years ago? Or like, should we go in and see an account that buys 10 or 15 cases a month from us every week? No. But can we go in and like swing in once every other week or once a month and like really try to take care of them? Yeah, I think you can do that for sure.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hoping, and I've always hoped with this, and this back in your days on the board, on the MBWA board, we talked about this in innovation and technology and the BIECC, is that, I really want FinTech data and the MBWA FinTech relationship to really help direct and change the way people think about the market. And if we can do that, it's a win, and just slightly alter the course, give everyone a nudge to kind of start looking at these things in a new light, because the opportunity is there.
And what's really interesting for FinTech data, for those of you who are listening that are like, what does that mean or what is it? FinTech is a payment processor, alcohol-centric universe across the country. So they have hundreds of thousands of accounts in which they're tracking the payments and processing the payments for beer distributors, collapsing all of that invoice level detail into a data warehouse in which we can say, okay, what is the percent of share for off-premise versus on-premise versus types of accounts. And it's really interesting because it's kind of like scan data, but where scan data is super centric to like large format stores with point of sale systems, this gets all the way down into independent channel stores plus some large format stores mixed in, and the on-premise transaction detail at the distributor level, which you are never going to get the on-premise transactional detail out of a point of sale system in any kind of efficient manner as well. So that's a really unique opportunity than a fintech data side for those. And is that fair? Is that a fair assessment and fair dialogue?
That's a very good assessment of how it plays out. And when I started with MBWA, I don't know. Whenever I started with MBWA, we were doing this with 15-20% of the market. We're up to almost 50% of the market now, and the depth and the breadth of the data across the United States, across the channels, across the brands and the suppliers and the manufacturers has only gotten better. So I think it's a ton of fun just to be able to, and also to create those narratives and those stories that keep people thinking positively about the direction of their business.
Do you got a hard stop, Lester, at the top of the hour?
Nope.
So 2 questions to finish. We'll start with the first one. Given everything you know about the market and what you see, what do things distributors need to be focused on moving into the rest of 2026?
Well, there are retailers who are their customers, and those retailers are, no doubt, under stress. Gas prices, insurance prices, cost of labor, cost of everything is going up. So every retailer, in my opinion, is rationalizing how they spend their money. And when I look at the fintech data, which is purchase data, which are dollars, I see retailer behavior coming to light. And that coming to light is, I want the brands that move, create velocity, make money for me. I see a lot of rationalization in the long tail. They're not scared of innovation, because clearly when I look at the list of brands, I see new brands and new innovations that are popping up and doing well. And so that tells me that they're not scared of it. But I think not just retailers, but everyone in 2026 is thinking a lot more carefully how they spend their money, where they spend their money, and what that return is. So if I'm a beer distributor, I'm not pulling out the same playbook. I'm coming out to my retailers trying to convince them that what I'm offering is better than what it was before, whether it's moving faster, whether there's more people interested in it, whether it's something new, and it can be innovation. I got the Angry Orchard. I was doing the Angry Orchard. Angry Orchard is winning. And I know. I remember having conversations with them 4 or 5 years ago about how to get that engine rolling. But that was 3 or 4 years ago, and here it is finally happening. So this is our brand. Our things change slowly, and it's not something that happens overnight. You need to have patience, and you need to have commitment, and you need to have a strategy, and it's got to be a little bit more thoughtful moving forward in 2026, up against the constraints of 3.5% inflation.
Yeah. I hear, affordability crisis from the news, Lester, and all that to me is repackaged in, I just want to make sure I'm getting the most out of my dollar.
Yeah.
And that I don't mind spending my dollar. I just want to make sure I get the most out of it.
Yeah.
And that's not really cute to say on news, but affordability crisis is incredibly eye-catching to say on news.
Yeah. And the mainstream media will continue to kind of conflate and make all of these things, feel like they're much more at a crisis mode. But with everyone, I can't remember who said it, but the minute everyone thinks we're in a crisis is probably the point when you can forget that we're in a crisis. Right? And it's kind of like, there's a little bit of if everyone's in panic mode and crisis mode, it's probably over at this point. But yeah,
I think I saw this slide that like every time CNBC says that the market's doomed, it's like the performance from the time in which they said something like that to its year later. It's like continually like that would be the point to buy every time that they
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that would be that's the buying point.
Yeah, that's
on their world.
when the consensus is disaster, that's actually when the disaster has passed and we're actually coming out of it. So that's a good thing to it's kind of a good mantra to live by and to stay focused on.
Well, I'm probably a smart ass in this, but the only concern that I've really big seen out the beer industry lately is that Kramer from Mad Money said that now is the time to buy Constellation, and I'm like, we don't need him fading. We don't need any negative fade from him on going long on. So Ross says
they created an inverse ETF based on what he says. Whatever he says, you got to fade it.
Yeah. I mean, if
Constellation's going out of business.
If you're following Kramer for alcohol beverage insights, you might want to rethink what you're doing. I mean,
bad idea.
I mean, it's just, I've been doing this for 25 years, guys, and I still learn things. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've built, econometric models of the beer industry over the last 20 plus years, and never ever thought that I had the away from home and at home consumption time series to overlay in that, and that it would prove out to be a very significant variable in estimating that equation. And that it didn't dawn on me until a month ago to do that math. And that's after, decades of staring at these graphs and these charts and trying to make things work. So I'm still learning. I'm still discovering new things, and I ain't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And I know that there's things that I haven't explored to look at to really help explain what drives our market, what drives our consumers, and why they do what they do. But I will tell you, they're consistent, reliable consumers of alcohol beverage. Don't let anyone distract you from that top line narrative.
I love that. Well, thank you, Lester, for coming on today. If anybody's listening and wants to get a hold of you, find the BPI index or connect with you, how do they connect with you?
You can email me at ljones@nbwa. Or you can find me on the website. You can email BPI at NBWA. I'll get that email. I'd love to have you guys participate more. The more people we have, the more reliable the data become. And, granted there's sentiments, but, for the conversation and for the narrative, I'm happy with that sentiment survey. I don't turn it into a quantitative hard, take on what's going to happen, but it's nice to have those warm, fuzzy feelings in the back of your head that you're talking about the right thing at the right time.
Love it. And if you like what we're doing, continue to share, listen, and subscribe to our podcast. You can hit us up at info@vxptech.com. That's info@vxptech.com. Send us any listener questions. If you need to get a hold of Lester or want to see any of this, you can hit us up there. I'll make sure that you all get connected from there too. Lester, we can't thank you enough for joining us on the podcast today. And you're always a plethora of information. Biggest takeaway is that those of us have been doing this for many, many years, and the four of us have been around the table talking about beer forever. All this stuff can change. You can always learn something new. If you're a rep out there or you're a team lead out there, listen to this. Continue to try to learn and continue to try new things, because what worked yesterday might work today, or what didn't work a year ago could work today, and vice versa. So we got to continue to learn and get smarter. There's a ton of opportunities in the industry. I'm excited for the year. I've been excited for a while. You continue to see clients of ours succeed. You continue to hear about distributors succeed as well too. You don't have to succumb to the outcomes. You can affect change. I think Lester would buy into that concept as well too. And there's too many opportunities for us not to win as a beer distributor right now. So thank you, Lester, for joining us today, my man. You rock. Say hi to Ravine for us, and we will chat again soon.
Absolutely. Come to Austin anytime, guys, for smoked beer.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers. So, for example, this was this is our this is the wrong slide, but that's okay. Let's concentrate on what it says here with
I think the title's wrong.
it is wrong.
The data says 2026.
I just pulled up the
work in
wrong one.
process.
That's right.
Well, you know, I'm not.
We're editing the slide in real time
This
here.
is how I, guys. This is how I roll.
I love it.
This is how I roll, guys.
The data is so fresh that the headers aren't even in.
The data is so fresh, the headers aren't in.